Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I am Heena Gambhir. In last 3 days, viewers, there have been 3 incidents in the aviation sector that I want to highlight tonight, when air travelers had to face a harrowing time. 18th of May, a Pune to Delhi flight was delayed for over 7 hours. Yes, you heard me right. This flight had to be delayed for over 7 hours. Then, on 19th of May, a Delhi Shirdi flight was diverted to Mumbai because of rough weather. And then, on 20th of May, which is today, just 27 minutes after takeoff, a flight headed to Bengaluru had to return to Mumbai airport after mid-air engine shutdown. Earlier this month, you will remember, a 22-year-old passenger traveling via Mumbai-Durgapur flight, which faced turbulence, leaving several passengers injured, with some even landing in ICU, said he will never board a flight in his life, as he thought it was going to be the last day of his life. That was the kind of experience that he and other passengers had to face in this particular aircraft. And today only, a passenger has tweeted these pictures that we are now going to put on your screens. Dubai to Delhi flight, Air India Express. Now these show tissue papers in AC vent and luggage area. Well, that's the other picture that I'm talking about. We'll show you the one that I'm talking about as well. This picture that you're seeing on your screens right now, in fact, is from another air passenger who was traveling from Mumbai to Delhi this morning, had tweeted a picture showing tape around the window as it was coming off. So that was the first picture I was referring to. Let's go back to that picture and highlight it for our viewers. This is the condition of the aircraft right now. A passenger has tweeted a picture. It was a Dubai to Delhi flight, Air India Express, showing tissue papers in AC vent and luggage area. And another passenger traveling from Mumbai to Delhi this morning tweeted these pictures showing tape around window as it was coming off. Now look at what we are paying to fly. Suppose tomorrow you have to travel to these destinations from Delhi. Then here's what you must be prepared to pay. Delhi-Mumbai sector, the ticket price minimum is 8,053 rupees for one ticket, and the maximum is 15,721 rupees, and it's a Delhi-Mumbai ticket price that I'm talking about. Delhi-Chennai flight is going to cost you, the lowest is 8,893 rupees, almost 9,000 rupees, and then it goes up to 17,924 rupees. Delhi-Bengaluru, you know, another sector where a lot of people travel to regularly, the ticket price is 8,893 again. Delhi-Hyderabad, it's 8,053 for one ticket. Delhi-Kochi, 12,643, and the maximum is 24,450. Delhi-Kolkata, another very regular sector for a lot of people, for a lot of our viewers as well, 8,053 is the minimum that you have to pay. Not just this, that was just the ticket price that I showed you. There are more charges for, other services that we get when we are traveling by air. There are charges if you want some specific seats for yourself. If you want a hard copy of the boarding pass, there are charges. If you're carrying extra baggage, there are charges. If you want to cancel your ticket for some reason, there are charges. Then for flight rescheduling as well, there are charges. Air travel, in simple words, is getting costly and risky. The question is it fair to consumers who are paying a lot of money for traveling to the destination that they want to? But there's another aspect as well that I want you to focus on. Now that is about jet fuel, which constitutes around 40% of cost to the airlines. Now even that is at an all-time high right now. Rupee is getting weaker every single day. So is high cost to fly leading to poor level of service by airlines? Is the question I'm asking this evening. The kind of experience passengers are facing these days, is it fair to them? Because these people are paying a lot of money. Or do you think the extra burden that airlines are facing today is the reason behind this poor level of service that we are getting on a regular basis. Viewers, the numbers are going to be flashing at the bottom of your screen, and you can also call us and share with us in case you've had a harrowing time, just like these passengers had who I mentioned about just now, and share with us your experiences so that the message goes to the government, message goes to the airlines, and things hopefully start getting better. And joining us on the debate this evening is Parvez Damania, who is an aviation expert, Captain Amit Singh, founder, Safety Matters Foundation, live with us, Ashwini Kakkar, Managing Partner in Venture Partner, Sanat Kaul, former Civil Aviation Joint Secretary, Government of India, and Chairman, International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Drones, Saurabh Sinha, who is a Senior Editor with Times of India, also on the broadcast this evening. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. Mr. Sanat Kaul, let me begin the discussion with you. I showed you about certain incidents that have been reported only in the month of May. Is it fair to the customers, the kind of service that people are getting today?
Well, it's certainly not fair because we don't expect this kind of things to happen. But you have said a number of things. One is about service, and one is about the condition of aircraft, and then about the cost of ticket, and the other is about the particular incident which took place. Now, these are all there, but I mean, to give a background, the COVID has actually costed the airlines very dearly in the sense that their now bottom lines are very poor and they have to recover. So, and the fuel prices are going up. So the ticket prices are going up. Now, how far is it justified? How far it is not is another issue which has to be studied. We have gone in for open pricing, free pricing, and to that extent, there is competition between airlines, and the airlines can bring down their prices, but they are able to fill up the seats. So they are not bringing down the prices, and they're able to fill up the seats. So it all depends on the market situation. I know somebody just told me that they paid 25,000 rupees from Delhi to Goa. Now, this could also happen. So what is to be done, whether to regulate the market price or not, is one issue. The DGCA, under their rules, there is a provision for excessive pricing and for predatory pricing. Now, here the predatory pricing concept is not valid just now, but excessive pricing is a case. But at the same time, we have to see what is the cost to airline just now because of the high fuel prices. Fuel prices are really, really going very high. The second thing is maintenance. The maintenance on aircraft is probably not keeping up. And there, I think up to a point on the safety aspect where, windows are getting taped by, as you have shown, it requires DGCA to pull up the airlines to make sure that safety in no way is compromised. If the quality of seat or something else is not so good, it is for the airline to do it. But safety definitely is an issue which DGCA, with the Director General Civil Aviation and the government should be bothered about and make sure. Now, the other thing was a sudden dip which took place, which has hurt seriously a number of people. It has been investigated why it happened. Was it captain's fault, or was it a sudden air pressure which brought this thing down? So I am not in a position to give a view on the subject till I know what exactly happened. But certainly for a consumer and for a passenger, these are very, very upsetting things, and it has to be taken seriously. Director General Civil Aviation is the only body who is understaffed with an increase in aircrafts. He's not able to have so many inspectors and other things like that. There needs to be a full study. When the US FAA lowered India,
right,
their thing, that is the time when Prime Minister had to take a meeting to increase the number of inspectors in DGCA. Now, I think we are coming to the same situation because the fleet side is going up. I don't know whether the size of the DGCA inspectors and others are going up in proportion. I don't think so at all. So that's the other aspect.
Okay.
Now, yeah. So on the fuel cost, I think there is now a need for government to take a view, because every time fuel cost goes up, government also profits. They get a percentage on that. And I think it's very unfair,
Yes.
whether it's petrol or air fuel, they should not profit on increasing fuel costs. There used to be a fuel stabilization fund many years back, which was used for this purpose. The money used to, when the fuel prices used to go down, the money used to go in there. And when the fuel prices were going up, it was subsidizing it. Now that stabilization fund finished, I think, many 20-30 years back. And after that, it's not been revived. It should be. So these are some of my initial comments. I will join in later. Thank you.
Very pertinent points you have raised, Mr. Sanat Kaul, and will of course be elaborating these as well in the debate tonight. But Parvez Damania, as Mr. Kaul was mentioning, 25,000 rupees for a ticket from Delhi to Goa. Don't you think consumers deserve some decent level of service? Do you also believe that now air travel is getting costlier as well as riskier?
Well, first and foremost, consumers need to receive excellent service, not slightly better service, because the airlines are charging whatever they think right. And I fail to understand why service standards are dropping. At one time, Indian aviation and Indian airlines had excellent service standards, but some of the incidents have been very shocking, particularly like the way the child was denied boarding, even though the parents were with him. They made a lot of noise, but still the Indigo staff didn't let the child go on. I fail to understand. And of course, every time something happens, the government says, we will start an inquiry, we will look into the matter. But ultimately, none of us follow up really what happened at the end of the day. Even the incident of the pressured, the aircraft entering turbulence and the pressure changing, the air mass opening up, the luggage falling, so many people went into the ICU. And the same night after the plane landed, the aircraft was cleared, which is very shocking how the aircraft was cleared that same night. Like Mr. Kaul said, one of the main reasons is a huge shortage of DGC inspectors. So I think the government needs to look into increasing the number of people and the team at the DGCA. But one thing is also very worrisome for the industry, that the fuel, as it is, the fuel was the largest component of the aviation business. In an airline, the largest cost is fuel. And now suddenly in the last 1 year, the fuel prices have almost doubled. That is going to be very back-breaking for the airline. Plus, you have to understand that a lot of costs, major costs of the airline are connected to the US dollar. The lease rent, the maintenance, and a lot of things. So one side, fuel prices are going up. One side, the dollar is going up. So the airlines are in a fix for the situation. But even if that has happened, even the costs are going up, fuel prices, there can be no compromise on the engineering and safety standards. Whatever happens, the airlines have to see. The government and the DGCA people cannot be everywhere. There's a quality control manager who sort of reports to the CEO, whose job is to see that the quality standards, engineering standards are maintained. So it is very important that the airlines self-govern and make sure their engineering standards do not drop. So, like I said, DGCA government people cannot be everywhere, but airlines have to be careful no matter what the cost. The safety standards cannot be compromised. So I hope the airlines are looking into that aspect. And yes, fares are going up. See, the government during COVID time had a policy where there was a lower fare and there was an upper fare. Then people shouted and said, this is a free market economy, fares should not be regulated. Now the government is not regulating the fares, but again, at the same time, the airline should self-regulate. Don't take fares to a point where people are paying, so let's keep increasing, so it breaks the back of the consumer. Ultimately, your survival, the airline survival depends upon the airline, the air passengers. The minute the passengers are unhappy, things will deteriorate for the airline. And one has to understand, jet trial flights are on, Vistara is growing, Tatas have taken over Air India. So The Akasa Air is coming. So ultimately, how the airlines treat the passengers today will affect the economy in the future.
Yes, those are important issues as well. Mr. Saurabh Sinha, the point here is that are airlines even bothered about the complaints that are coming regularly from passengers? We understand that there is a financial issue that they are facing because of surging jet fuel prices and tumbling rupee. But are they even taking these issues seriously? And what about the issue of shortage of manpower in DGCA?
See, airlines are emerging out of the COVID crisis. For them, the first challenge is to somehow survive. What's happening simultaneously is new airlines will be coming up and the old airlines will get a new form. Air India Express under Tata Group. Indigo has its own major plans. Akasa is going to start with the backing of Mr. Junjunwala. So as of in a couple of months, by the end of this year, the passengers will have a choice. That is when the passenger will be the king again. That is when they can choose an airline which they feel offers a better product, a better pricing. That is when they can choose. At this point of time, airlines, they are reeling under the impact of COVID like all other industries. They're simply just trying to survive. So it'll take some time for these airlines to fly out of the turbulence if there's no further COVID wave, if there's no further restriction on operations. So by the end of this year, hopefully, the passenger will be the king again. The small airlines will have to the problems are being faced by two kind of airlines. One, which have weak balance sheets and they don't have money to spruce up their interiors. And that's the result we see in the form of the missing armrest, a broken commode in the lab, and that stuff. And second is the airline which has an old fleet. Now, these are issues that will be addressed by players who have the money. Players who do not have the money, they will simply the passengers will stop flying those airlines. You can take a bad product, a bad service once, twice, but after a bad experience, it's very difficult to win over a passenger again. So but it's a process which is ongoing, and really good things are going to happen now with the advent of these new airlines and the taking over of Tata's taking over Air India. So as of now, things are not very good, but I do see a silver lining at the end of this dark cloud. What we need to focus on right now, what DGCA has been doing, is ensuring safety. That is uncompromisable. You cannot compromise on safety standards. Engineering checks have to be very tight. There has to be a level of checks for airlines that this airline, due to its financial, there used to be this concept of financial audits earlier. That has been done away as of now because all the airlines are in bad shape. You cannot go after the balance sheets of airlines. They're all in deep red, all of them. But what perhaps the DGCA is doing already is it has identified airlines which are weak balance sheets and whose engineering needs to be checked. And following that, after passengers started complaining about the poor cabins, it was a passenger flying on a flight from Bangalore to Guwahati, and then another passenger flying some other aircraft. They tweeted pictures of the cabins to DGCA, after which for the first time they have to order checks of aircraft when they are parked at night. So hopefully this exercise is the ground aircraft which have poor cabins, bad cabins, missing armrests or broken windows coming out on the inner side. So they're taking steps here, and hopefully by the end of, I really hope that this will lead to some changes by the end of this year. But as of now, everybody is in a very bad position.
You're hoping that things are looking to get better maybe by the end of this year. But Captain Amit Singh, there are two issues here. One, that, air travel is getting costlier. We all know, I have shown the viewers how the ticket prices are if you want to travel tomorrow or day after to, the sectors which have actually a lot of flights. Forget about the sectors which do not have too many flights on any given day. Of course, there the prices are even higher, but it's getting riskier too. For example, what happened today? A flight had to return immediately after taking off, 27 minutes after taking off, because there was a mid-air engine shutdown. And there have been several such incidents in the recent past. So what is really being done? Is it fair on consumers who are paying 8,000, 25,000 rupees for one ticket?
Certainly not There are two aspects. One is the culture, the prevailing culture in the aviation sector, and second is the quality assurance. Now, as far as regulatory aspects are concerned, I've heard a lot of people saying that DGCA does not have FIDs, flight inspectors. So what have we done about it? So there is no system in which there is a steady stream of input or recruitment. There is always an ad hoc. Right now, the flight inspectors have been hired for a contract of 1 year. So how can a system function when a person knows that within 6 months, the person takes about 2 to 3 months for training, and what's left? So you have to have a long-term roadmap. There is no long-term roadmap. There was a move to restructure the DGCA, but I don't know what is happening on that front. So the prevailing culture does not promote all these things. It is a cat and mouse game. So the airlines are getting away with a lot of things, but if a passenger tweets, okay, namesake, we take some action. But that is not the end of it. There has to be, in a system, a feedback loop, which means if you take action, the person has to be informed we have taken action. The system has to be corrected, not one particular segment. So we have something called a safety management system. That is also a loop. The quality management system is also a loop, which is plan, do, check, act, and then report back to see if the action has worked or not. So the prevailing culture, we did a culture survey, safety culture survey in 2020, in which the same thing came out, that people don't want to give a feedback because they don't know what happens to the feedback. The regulations are made by the DGCA, public comments are sought, but what happens to their comments, nobody knows. So they're thrown in the dustbin. That is what everybody feels. So they stop giving comments. So there is no trust between the regulator and the stakeholders. Stakeholders are also the passengers because they're the people who fly. So they need to know what are the safety standards of the airlines. For example, Japan Airlines posts all their incidents on the website. If you want to know how good or bad an airline is, just go to the website, see what type of incidents have happened, how many have they happened. But in India, we don't have any data which is available. Even AIB has of late stopped putting out any data on the website. Incidents, accident reports, everything has stopped.
Even the
So there is no
investigation takes
transparency.
months, at times years to get completed.
Yeah, so there have been cases like one Trichy accident where the aircraft Air India Express tail hit the wall. It took about 3 years for that accident report, and that too after the High Court intervened. Then it came out. So this is the kind of system we have, the culture prevailing. So it is not that the DGCA comes up, pulls up somebody, or the airlines. So there have been number of audits, special audits, extraordinary audits. After every incident, there is an audit. What happens to the audit? Nobody knows. So what is the point of going through all these motions when there is no concrete roadmap or a long-term roadmap? Now, when we talk about quality, people talk about quality has to be there. So quality control is one thing. Quality assurance is another part, which even the people in DGCA don't have a good understanding of it. I filed the RTI about the training of pilots especially, that there is a requirement from the UN regulator and the DGCA themselves that there has to be a system of quality assurance in training, which means if you impart training to a pilot, you have to ensure that the training, what is written in the books is being followed. So assurance is one thing and quality is second part. Quality is just if you're complying or not complying. Assurance is you don't reach a stage wherein you have to go after quality control. So you have to prevent. That is a preventive action. So we are not looking at preventive. We are only looking at reactive actions. That is what we do. That is what the system is. Something happens,
and
then
we do see these kind of reactions coming quickly. Mr. Ashwini Kakkar, soon after a passenger puts out something on social media, for example, a couple of days ago, an air traveler had put out on social media that an airline is charging even for the hard copy of a boarding card. We do not know whether something has been done about it or not. And that tells us how the system is. Are airlines not bothered about losing customers?
Well, Hina, the issues are more complex than just a simple kind of straightforward kind of answer for a lot of these kind of things. During the COVID period, of course, a lot of the airlines have lost a lot of money. Their balance sheets are filled with red. And it is not only their balance sheets, but equally, I think what has happened is that a lot of good people were let go by the airlines, and it's becoming very difficult to get the people back. Some of them have even gone to other industries. So this is one of the key areas which needs to be looked at. There are other areas like the fuel prices and obviously the dollar thing, which everybody has talked about. Those are very crucial things. Now, clearly, as far as service is concerned and as far as safety is concerned, there cannot be compromises, especially in the maintenance area. There cannot be compromises, otherwise the planes will start falling out of the sky. But on the other hand, there needs to be a balance between the authority which we as passengers give to the airline and the responsibility that the airline has. The airline is responsible for bringing us properly to a destination safely, securely, all of that. But equally, they must have the authority to then say, okay, this, passengers a little bit, will create issues on the plane or something will happen. But that balance needs to be maintained at all times. And you must also realize that, India has a very bad history of nurturing its airlines. 8 to 10 airlines have already gone bankrupt, because of a variety of reasons. And of course, currently one of the big reasons could even be that the government profiting so much from fuel, whereas airlines and other people are suffering on that count. Also, what must be realized is that at the ground service level or in-flight service level, it is one human being serving another human being. So it's a relationship between a flight attendant, for example, and a passenger. Now, things go on between the two of them, which are not always visible at all times. So I think it's all about balance. And I think the third aspect is the regulator. So the regulator, if he is playing the role really, really well, a lot of these things will get taken care of. But for the moment, there is some areas which can
role
be
of regulator clearly is important, but as Mr. Sanat Kaul mentioned earlier, that maybe shortage of manpower in DGCA could be one of the reasons. Of course, we'll get that addressed as well. But meanwhile, we have two viewers as well joining us on the broadcast this evening. Let's also listen into what they have to say who've been watching the debate. Anil Sood is joining us from the national capital. Good evening, Mr. Sood. Thank you for calling us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. What is it that you would like to say or share with us tonight?
Good evening, Heena. I had been listening to all the panelists, and except for Captain Amit Singh on few issues, I disagree with all the panelists. The issue is being soft-pedaled. For the simple reason that when DGCA needs a technical person, you have put IAS in charge over there. ICO audit has already raised serious issues about regulation follow and legal mechanism and accident investigations. I had been fighting with the DGCA for last 13 years on noise pollution. The objections, what they called from me, they published in 2011, they published a notice inviting objections on and suggestions on noise pollution. Can you believe what ruckus they had created? And DGCA is the most useless organization. On 3rd of May, on about flight SG 953, I had lodged a complaint on Twitter that the aircraft was having non-reclining seats, torn seats, and service was so pathetic, air conditioning was so pathetic. I think 3 days after this, inspected about 100 and odd aircrafts. And all aircrafts were found fit to fly.
Okay.
Can you imagine the card which is kept in the seat pocket? which shows the position in case of emergency landing. Let all the panelists tell me which aircraft meets those standards. None of the aircrafts meet those standards. You cannot
Important
even go
points
down.
you have raised, Mr. Anil Sood. Yes, thank you very much for calling us here on Mirror Now and sharing with us your perspective. Girish Ramarao is also joining us on the broadcast from Bengaluru. Good evening. Thank you for calling us here on Urban Debate. What is it that you would like to say?
Yeah, good evening.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I'm Girish from Bangalore. Yeah, I'm Girish S. Rao from Bangalore.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, Bangalore is known for Silicon City. Yeah, Bangalore is known for Silicon City. Please listen to me very carefully. Bangalore has become a sleeping city now. Reason being work from home. Work from home has impacted the business travel. Earlier, people used to fly Bangalore-Mumbai, Mumbai-Bangalore, or Mumbai-Delhi, Delhi-Bangalore. Like free tickets were there. People were flying for business leads up and down. There was a lot of generation of revenue used to come to airline industry. Now, if a corporate person want to travel to Mumbai, he has to take 10 approvals. Now, definitely this work from home concept, not only affecting airline industry, it is affecting all the industries across all verticals. Because of revenue loss, we are seeing all these things. The work from home going to stay, and we are going to see a major distraction in business, not just in airline verticals, but in many other verticals. This is what I want to say. Work from home has to stop.
All right. Girish Ramarao, appreciate you joining us here on Urban Debate and sharing with us your perspective. We have Ajay joining us from Hyderabad as well. Good evening, Ajay. Go ahead. Tell us what is it that you would like to say.
Madam, I traveled from Hyderabad to Delhi on 18th February by AI 543. The exit gate was gate 41. And there were 4 cars which were standing there, but not a single driver was there. I requested for the card, but I was told that no driver is available. Can it be believed? And I had to walk all from gate 41 to luggage collection belt. And I am 80-year-old senior citizen. Now you tell me whether and I have got a knee replacement also done. For 2 days, I experienced cramps in my leg. Can you believe it? Who will compensate me?
Yes. Yes, that's a very valid point you're making, Mr. Ajay. Thank you for calling us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. No, but he did not get. That's what he said. Suresh is also joining us from Bengaluru. Good evening, Suresh. Thank you for calling us here on Urban Debate. What is it that you would like to say?
What I think he should have taken up with the airline.
Yes. Parvez Damania, I'll come to you in just a bit. Let me just hear from one more viewer, then I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Hi,
just give
this
me a
is
moment.
Suresh from Bangalore.
Suresh from Bengaluru is also on the phone line. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My question is, what is the division on the fare? Because we have the fare which is divided for the airline, and we have the fare which is paid for the airport charges. So what is the division? How much percentage of that has increased? So what we have seen is of the airports, their charges have become very high. It has to reduce for the travel. Because we are using the airport for domestic travel, you don't need much of the facilities what are provided at the airport. So there they can reduce the cost.
All right, Suresh, appreciate you joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Yes, there are other charges as well. When you are, buying a ticket, there is an aviation security fee, passenger service fee, user development fee, plus there is GST component as well, which is in the case of the national capital, it is roughly around 834 rupees over and above what is going to the airline. Now, Mr. Parvez Damania, the points that the viewers are making are very genuine. I mean, these are the issues we do see people facing on a regular basis each time we travel.
See, we have a very serious problem, unlike Europe. What happens when you fly to Paris? There'll be 3 more airports. Now, the airports are competing against each other. Some of the airports are low cost. So if somebody wants a low cost airline, the airport will also be different. The problem in India is when you want to fly to Mumbai, you have only one airport. You want to fly to Delhi, there's only one airport. There are no smaller airports surrounding where low-cost airlines can land, where the airport charges are much lower. The other very serious problem is, and which is going to go up, and I'm sure my panelists will agree, the government has privatized the airports. Now, the new private operator can keep raising the prices as and when he wants, which they will keep raising. And if you want to land at Bombay, you have to land at Bombay. And tomorrow the airport charges go from 800 to 1,000 rupees, you will have to pay. The government should look at, the government is expanding more airports are coming up, but there should be small airports around large cities. Of course, in cities in India, the cities are crowded, it's complicating, but that is the way system works in Europe and America. Another thing, the airline, the problem is very stupid. The airlines could have arranged a wheelchair for the gentleman. I'm sure he informed the airline. I do not know why they didn't arrange. And I think the consumer movement in India is very weak. The consumer should take it upon themselves. And I'm sure the gentleman can take it with a consumer court and take it up the matter if he did book a wheelchair. So now this wheelchair
But Mr.
problem has
Saurabh
nothing to do with the aviation
like
fuel prices or the
many
dollar falling down.
passengers who are quick to tweet about the problems that they are facing, there are still a lot of passengers who are not, there on social media, who can put their problems, click pictures and put their problems immediately on social media so that somebody will respond and something probably will be done.
Of course.
There are many first-time travelers also who do not know which person to be contacted if there is a situation that what Mr. Ajay mentioned.
You're right. People are not aware, and we have a large number of first-time flyers also. It's a very serious problem. There has to be awareness about passenger rights. For example, if an airline denies you boarding wrongly, you report to the airport in time, but still you're denied boarding, then there's compensation, there's fee that airlines need to pay, but there's very little awareness of that. People don't know about their Charter of Rights. So earlier we used to get those paper tickets, not that anybody used to read them, but there would be a Charter of Rights with them. So today there is an urgent need to have a major consumer awareness program. As a consumer, when you buy an airline ticket, you are paying for both the airline and the airport, for using both the airline and the airport as part of the UDA. You are a consumer when you at the airport, you are a consumer inside the aircraft. And you have your rights in both these places. And if there's deficiency of service in any of those places, then you are entitled to your rights. So on paper, we have those rights, but consumers need to be made aware of them, that if this happens to you, this is what you should be asking for. This is what you are entitled for. There has to be a major campaign for that. And the best place to have that is at airports. When people walk inside an airport, we have those big billboards for ads and everything. We should have a certain space earmarked for this passenger awareness campaign, that this is your Jago Grahak Jago movement needs to come in the aviation sector also now. People should be made aware that this is what they are entitled to. It's a mutually beneficial relationship.
I think that's a very interesting point you have made, Mr. Saurabh Sinha. Yes, let me also now go across to Mr. Sanat Kaul, because a lot was said about the poor financial condition of airlines, and probably one of the reasons why, the airlines are not able to give the level of service that, they should actually be giving to the consumers if they are charging such high ticket prices. I was just looking at some data, Mr. Sanat Kaul. Now, things seem to be improving for aviation players. Of course, 2 years were very, very tough, but the aviation sector has witnessed a 38% growth in domestic travel in March this year. 1.06 crore domestic passengers traveled by air in the month of March, which is 38% more than 76.96 lakh who flew in the month of February. The passenger load factor was above 80% for all Indian private carriers in the month of March. Is it just about the balance sheet, or it's more about the profit margin?
It's both. I mean, the balance sheet and profit margin go together. If you have a balance sheet which is negative, then it is, the profit will be less. So they're looking to both, but there is no doubt that the airlines have suffered.
What I want to ask you specifically is that are the concerns more about profit margins? Because, not many people are traveling for business, for work. Like one of our viewers also mentioned, now work from home is something that has become a reality in a city like Bengaluru as well. From I'm sure there used to be a lot of business travel. All that's not happening. So do you think probably the profit margins are not what they used to be before the pandemic? And hence this poor quality service?
Well, obviously, the point is that these are commercial undertakings. These are not charitable organizations. So they have to look for their profit. They have shareholders. They have to service the shareholders also. But what I was trying to say was that there are a large number of consumer complaints. And I've been advocating that there should be a concept of passenger ombudsman in India. There's nothing like that. So only person to whom you can apply to for when you don't get a wheelchair on time is DGCA. Now, DGCA just does not have the time. I know all these letters that go to DGCA probably, just go down to a dustbin. So the point is that passenger complaints are minor. They can be rectified. They can be looked into, and they should be done by a separate office. The other is the safety concerns, which are very important, which DGCA should concentrate on. And as far as profit margins are concerned, yes, airlines have to be profitable to survive. They have to buy new planes. They have to buy new equipment. So profitability definitely is an issue. And therefore, I think, it's not that they have to make excessive profits, but they have to not be in a loss. Nobody is going to help them out. The government didn't help them out in the 2 years of COVID. So they have to take care of themselves. And to that extent, yes, I think, we have to look at both the sides, that the passengers' needs are there. They have to be looked after. The minimum needs of passengers need to be looked into. And the airlines must remain in profit. They should not be in red, because once they're in red, then they start reducing their quality of service to save costs. So both sides are there. I don't think you can ignore one side and say this side or that side. Thank you.
Okay, but eventually, if a customer is paying, as you said, from Delhi to Goa, 25,000 rupees for the ticket, as Mr. Parvez Damania mentioned earlier, then definitely, they deserve a good quality service. And we can really hope that things get better. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. Thank you very much. Heading into a excellent quality service with no compromise at all on safety. Of course, that should be the benchmark, and we can really hope that things get better, as Mr. Saurabh Sinha also mentioned, with more and more players also coming into the aviation sector. Hopefully, things will get better. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us on Urban Debate this evening. Heading into a